Welcome to the Nutritious and Delicious podcast. I'm your host, Bethany, and I've been in the health and wellness space for over 18 years. As a previous health nurse and now a certified holistic nutritional consultant, I help clients with their hormone health, fertility, and family health. Join us on this journey as we connect with experts from around the globe, sharing insights and personal stories along the way. Today, I'm here with the amazing Dr. Kela Smith. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bethany. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you. I love the fact that you have so much knowledge on this topic, and we're going to get into that. But first, I want to introduce, Dr. Kela Smith is actually a holistic, integrative fertility and hormone health doctor. She is the founder of the Hormone Puzzle Society and the creator of the Hormone Puzzle Method. After struggling with infertility for years, she actually healed her own body naturally and conceived both of her miracle babies. Now she helps women and couples around the globe do the exact same thing through coaching, courses, and certification programs designed to restore hormonal balance and optimize fertility at every stage. So that's absolutely wonderful. And I love how a lot of the people that I talk to, they can actually do that for themselves as well.
Sure.
Yeah. So today we actually have an amazing topic, and this is where a lot of clients are coming in with issues in terms of their blood work. So our topic is actually called Beyond Blood Work, Clearing Toxins for Fertility and Hormone Balance. So many women are told that their standard labs look normal, and this is what I'm seeing with clients as well, but they still really feel unwell, or they're not conceiving still. So how do functional labs go beyond sort of that regular blood work to uncover like the underlying like hidden root?
Sure. So traditional blood work is just a snapshot in time, especially when we're looking at hormones. And it's really looking for, do you have a disease, or are you in the process of getting a disease? And if so, do we need to treat with a prescription or a procedure, especially in
Right.
fertility? Blood work is really looking at, do we need to do IVF or IUI to get you pregnant? It's not looking at how can we heal the body and make it work optimally. So that's what we do with functional labs. We're taking a deeper look and looking, okay, well, if the blood work is normal and you're still having symptoms and you still can't get pregnant, well, what's that deeper underlying root cause of that? Is it something with your hormones where you're not methylating and detoxing appropriately? And I know we're going to get into the toxins conversation in a minute. Are you not detoxing the way that you need? And are these toxins and, extra hormones causing inflammation, which is affecting your gut health and your egg health and those pieces? Is it in the gut? Is it a microbiome imbalance where you have opportunistic bacteria causing inflammation and leaky gut and overall systemic inflammation, which blood work's never going to pick that up? Or,
Yeah.
is it a toxin issue? Do you have environmental toxins that are clogging your system and causing it not to work optimally? So the main difference in blood work versus functional labs is that we're looking at two different parameters here, and we're looking
Right.
at, do we need to heal the body versus what can we do to force it to do something that we're trying to achieve? So two
Right.
different forms of medicine.
I understand that, like, definitely looking at blood work, a lot of the kind of medical side, like working in the nursing field, is more like the thyroid, the iron, the complete blood count. Sort of like it's like what you say, what the basics are. And again, it's
Mhm,
like the general health, like how is your sort of body optimizing that? But what you
mhm.
mentioned, it rings a lot of bells in my head because the gut health, like inflammation, like definitely over the years have been a huge factor. And I'm seeing a lot of that where women are coming in saying like, I'm still struggling with my hormones, my labs look all normal, or maybe they have one or two things that are off, but it's not giving like any indication what's going on. You mentioned like hormones and detoxifying and understanding that, like, again, depending on how you're eating, your environment, your stress levels, all that kind of stuff, inflammation in your gut, that's a huge one. That's a huge one
Mhm,
that's been happening over the years. I don't think people realize what even inflammation is,
mhm.
and how it is like contributing to like their general health and their fertility and the toxins that are clogging the system. So this is where I think I wanted to go into today, is understanding like what kinds of toxins, heavy metals, environmental exposures are you most often seeing in clients that are struggling with these hormone imbalances, or either infertility, and like what symptoms are going to be like indicating this to you?
Sure. So it really depends on the patient. The main toxins that I see in my practice are things like heavy metals, mercury from old fillings or eating too much fish, lead, which is still in some people's homes in their pipes, that their water comes through, aluminum that can be in cookware, even in cosmetics. So the heavy metals is a big piece. Environmental toxins too. Glyphosate is a big one that I see a lot. Glyphosate is sprayed. Even if you eat organic produce, you can still get glyphosate because it's in the rainwater, it's in the air, and it goes
Wow.
into the fields, even in organic fruits and vegetables. Mold is another one I see a lot. Even people
Yikes.
that think that they don't have mold, they'll say, well, there's no mold in my current environment. We
Right.
can even trace that back to childhood, where I
Yes.
had a patient recently where we did a mycotoxin test. She was like, there's no mold. There's no way this is going to come up. She tested positive for every mycotoxin we tested her, and we linked it back to her bedroom as a kid. She had a crib and they lived in a moldy apartment. And so mold and mycotoxins is a big one. And some of the symptoms that I see, it can be any symptom that is disrupting your life, then that is more than mild. So if you just have you have mild symptoms around your menstrual cycle, that's one thing, but this is things that are disrupting your life: irregular cycles, painful periods, heavy periods, symptoms with brain fog and gut issues, constipation, diarrhea, bloating after you eat, skin issues, acne or rosacea, psoriasis, anything that is a symptom where it's disrupting your life and you can't pinpoint it in blood work, it's probably related to toxins and your ability to detox. And that's the other piece of this. A lot of times people will say, well, I work in a moldy, my workplace is moldy, I can't quit my job. But it's
Yeah.
about making your body work appropriately and be able to detox, and these organs working the way that they need to, and optimally, so that we can get the toxins out faster than they're coming in.
Question that made me think of it right away was what is something that maybe has changed, or maybe we're picking up on more so, that like why is our body stopping the detox? Like why are we maybe why is that being interrupted now?
Because there's so many more toxins than there ever have before, and we just cannot hold them all. It's our body's burden of
Right.
toxins. I mean, what's the statistic? I think it's most women leave the house with over 150 different chemicals on their body, even if they're
That's
using natural products.
Yep.
I mean, it's in our air, it's in our water,
Yeah.
it's just everywhere. And so we just can't detox the way that we used to, because there's so much more that we have to do. Our body's burdened more. And I think too, the stress piece, we are living in just a go, 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 don't sleep, highly stressed environment. It's just the
Right.
state of the modern world. And so combining that with all the, there's so many more toxins, I think those two things contribute the most.
What would you say like are the highest ones that you've come across where it's really disruptive, for whether it's like women that are kind of um experiencing like really bad periods, or even going into sort of like the menopause or like the infertility? Like what are the ones, like the main ones that you keep finding that are more disruptive?
Yeah, the mold and mycotoxins and the
Mold.
glyphosate and mercury. Those are probably the main ones I see on most toxin tests.
I'm going to say this wrong.
Mhm.
Is it, you say
Yeah.
glyphosate?
Uh-huh.
Is that like, is this a pesticide?
That's a pesticide, yes. So
Okay.
glyphosate is the most widely used pesticide. It's mainly sprayed on gluten and on corn. And so
Uh
and so there's that one, and there's also one called atrazine that is also sprayed. It's sprayed on rice, I think, and I think corn as well, but these are pesticides.
right.
Yes. Glyphosate is Roundup. It never should be used
Oh,
on our crops. It is
yeah.
just highly inflammatory and just it's terrible. It's also sprayed on wheat, so if you're a drinker and you drink beer, beer is terrible with glyphosate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because you wonder why so many people have issues with like wheat intolerance and all that kind of stuff too. And it
Yeah.
could be, like I say to people sometimes, like when I'm seeing tests come back with like weird foods that they're like, well, why would I be like having issues with this?
Mhm.
Again, it's like it could honestly be the pesticides on that
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a hard place to be, because again, right now things are so expensive already. And then
Mhm.
you tell someone to go buy organic, they're like, well, like, is that even a guarantee that I'm going to get away from that pesticide? So are there kind of any things that they can do sort of with their food, keeping that in mind? Like, are we having to completely avoid foods like wheat, like any type of kind of gluten grain, or rice, or anything that is like very high heavy in these things?
Yeah, I mean, I do recommend a gluten-free diet just because gluten is not super healthy. I mean, wheat is not healthy. It's very
Hmm.
inflammatory, and most of
Yeah.
it is sprayed with glyphosate. So I do recommend that. But if you have to have, something with gluten in it, have something like a sourdough bread
Yeah.
or like a very high quality. I even had a patient where they would ship in their bread from Europe because Europe doesn't
Mm.
spray with glyphosate. So
Yeah.
if you have to have it and you can't avoid it, then do something high quality like that. And yeah, and then as far as fruits and vegetables, make sure you're washing those. Obviously, you do, but don't just rinse. I know a lot of people just rinse with water.
Yeah.
You have to do something like a baking soda with water, let them soak for like 10 minutes, really getting those pesticides off that food if you can't buy organic.
Yeah.
And you can also do something like the Dirty Dozen, which is a list of foods that are highly sprayed. If you can't be 100% organic, then at least do the Dirty Dozen organic. And then
Yeah.
they have the Clean 15, which are less likely to be sprayed with pesticides. Oh, and then one other thing I wanted to mention there, make sure you're filtering your water. That's another big place where we get a lot of toxins. So filter your water in your home, your drinking water, shower water, and the water that you wash your foods with, and that'll
It,
help a lot.
it's amazing. Like, you think about how many things, like when you said 150 toxins before you even leave the house, like I can agree with that. Like, I'm very sensitive myself personally to like makeup products, anything.
Yeah.
So when you even try and go like kind of hypoallergenic and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
you're still putting stuff on your skin or your hair or your body in sprays.
Yeah.
And women, we're bad for that because like we buy so many of the products, we want to smell nice, we want to look good, so that
Mhm.
industry makes a lot of money off of women, obviously, but it doesn't help our skin, and our hormones, unfortunately. Um, Something that you said as well with like the dirty dozen. So a lot of, when people ask, well, what is a dirty dozen? If you think about it, it's a lot of the fruits and veggies that don't really have a thick skin. So
Mhm.
you're looking at things like spinach and berries that are very like soft, because they're absorbing more of the pesticides.
Mhm.
Things like watermelon, bananas, they have a thicker skin, and usually in that skin they'll hold the pesticide more so. So that's why they say like the dirty dozen is usually like the soft, like nectarines, peaches, berries,
Yeah.
spinach, things like that, and lettuce, unfortunately. Interesting that you brought up the bread thing, like about Europe,
Mhm.
because that was something that crossed my mind where a lot of people have said to me, I'm like severely celiac, and then I go to
Mm.
Europe and I can eat the pasta and the bread.
Yeah.
Like you said, because they don't spray with a certain pesticide. And a lot of people feel like they can tolerate that
Mhm.
bread. Like, yeah, going to like a local bakery, like in Europe, somewhere like that. So there is a huge difference, and I have seen that like kind of within our family system too, is that gluten has become a big issue and it
Yeah.
never used to be. And we grew up in England, in Europe, and we
Mm.
moved here, and now we all seem to have issues around that. And the dairy industry. So the dairy industry and the wheat industry have been a huge
Mhm.
problem, for inflammation, for people. And I definitely see that, a lot with clients for sure. It's like those two massively come up. Um,
Mm.
so
Yeah.
the other one too, I think you mentioned like the baking soda, like that's a great tip. Like we do that at home too. Baking
Mhm.
soda with water, leaving in 10 minutes, letting the pesticides come off. The filtered water, we do that at home. My partner bought like a, oh goodness, what is it? Like a,
Reverse
uh,
osmosis.
it's kind of like, it looks like a kettle, and it like drips
Mm.
every now and then. And it's supposed
Oh.
to, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's supposed to remove like a ton of the stuff in the water system, which is really helpful. And it tastes different. That's what I've noticed. It
Mhm.
tastes cleaner. Like it
Yes.
doesn't have that tap water taste, which is
Mhm.
interesting to kind of see. So I think that, I'm a believer in that too.
Mhm.
And definitely, I think what you're saying with the stress and everything, and having more toxins in our system, it
Mm.
seems to be more prevalent. I've noticed a huge uptick of people having more inflammation than ever,
Mhm.
heavier periods, more infertility. Like it seems to be ramping up. So what steps really can, like the women, struggling with their hormone health, or couples if they're struggling to get pregnant, what can they do kind of in their daily environment, at home, maybe with their food, like their lifestyle, to like better protect themselves. Because a lot of people are like, well, where do I start? It's like everywhere. Like I don't even know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, I know this can be very overwhelming, but just take a step back and take a breath and know that you have to do this one step at a time. Don't try to do it all at once or you will get very overwhelmed. And that's for people who are kind of just learning about this and starting from scratch. I know some of my patients and some of your listeners too, probably they're not starting from the beginning. So they just can jump in
Yeah.
wherever they feel like they need extra support. So I'm going to say a couple of things. These aren't in any particular order. They're just things I would start to think about and start to implement into your daily life. So the first thing is looking at your food. First, are there anything that you need to remove from your diet that's inflammatory? If you're eating packaged foods or processed foods or foods high in sugar or fried foods, I would really start to look at eliminating those. And now I'm a big 80-20 fan, so I don't think you need to be 100% no fun foods because we need to feed our soul. But really taking a hard inventory of what you're doing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And then looking and saying, okay, on my fruits and vegetables, am I eating organic where I can fit it into my budget? If not, we already talked about the dirty dozen and the clean 15. Definitely making sure you're cleaning all your fruits and vegetables, you're buying grass fed and, organic meats and fish, really looking at how can I stretch my budget to buy the cleanest foods possible. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is your water. We just talked about that, but definitely filtering your drinking water. There's systems that cost $100 all the way up to thousands of dollars. So find one that fits into your budget. And the most important thing is your drinking and cooking water. But if you can also filter your shower water and your whole house water, now there's some very affordable systems. Your shower water goes on your skin, which is one of your
Mm-hmm.
biggest organs. Very important to filter that. And then looking at your air quality in your home. Do you have an air filter within your home? You can pull out 80 to 90% of mycotoxins in your dust from just having a high quality air filter. Now you can have, a room filter or a whole house system. Definitely, if that fits your budget, I recommend that, especially in your bedroom where you're sleeping. But if you can't
Yeah.
afford that, just make sure you change out your HVAC air filters on a regular basis. I do mine monthly,
Yeah.
sometimes even a couple times a month because we have animals and we want to get rid of all the dander and the mold and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Tennessee, so mold is high in this area. And then look at your beauty products and cleaning products. Take a hard inventory of those things. Switch out where you can as you run out of things. I want you to say to yourself, one, do I need this product? If you don't need it, we have been sold to. You said that earlier. So many of the things we use, we don't really even need. So think, do I need this product? And if I do, if it's something that you really love, how can I choose a cleaner option? And then also, I said earlier, 80-20. If it's something where you're like, this is my favorite foundation and it's the only one I can find, maybe that's your one thing that you don't switch out. You switch out everything else. So take a
Right.
hard look at that with your beauty and your cleaning products. And then stress, I recommend, managing stress, that's one thing, but what does that even mean? So instead of talking about managing stress, I want you to think, how can I add more fun and more joy into my life? If you are doing things that bring you joy, that make you happy, it's very hard to be stressed in that moment. So do more of that and add more of that into your life.
That's great. I like that because I think a lot of people are worried about like eliminating things. So if you're saying
Mhm.
like add more in, I like that, like add more excitement, add more fun, add more adventure. I think that really helps instead of feeling like you have to sort of take away from your lifestyle. And a lot of people, if you
Mhm.
tell them you can't have something, they usually want it more,
Right.
more than
Right.
anything. So,
Exactly.
try and encourage them just to kind of do more for themselves. More relaxation, more time with their kids, more self-care, things like that. I think it gives them permission more so to like take better care of themselves. And we don't want to get obviously to that point where you're in a health crisis, like you're so overburdened with toxins, all your detox pathways, are broken. And we want to make sure that like you said, like all these like small things, they do add up in terms of your
Mhm.
health and your wellness. And we do this throughout our family as well. Like you talked about, cleaning out the ventilation and everything in your house too. Like you
Mhm.
don't realize how much like dust and mold and everything goes through like your house. Like if you have pets as well, you're breathing all this in and just making sure on a regular basis you're cleaning out certain things. Even your fridge as well, like you'd leave food sitting there and bacteria forms, and just like those regular habits for people as well.
Yeah.
There was one more thing I was going to ask you in terms of like, say if somebody is really heavy in like a detox, or they're trying to sort of maybe detox their system and they've got a lot of systems that aren't functioning properly. I usually get clients that are like, I want to go like do a liver detox, and they're kind of asking, and I'm like, ugh, like when you have that high of a detox to do, it's really, really hard on your system, and you kind of put yourself into this like I get sick mode.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is sort of like the safest, most effective way of like beginning an elimination from the body and supporting those detox pathways without like kind of having to take time off work and like getting full on sick?
Sure. So I would recommend that you work with somebody if you were going to do a detox at all. There's so many different ones on the market, from juice cleanses to fasts, and honestly most of them do not work. So you want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing in terms of detox. Now, can you do a light little detox at home where you're removing inflammatory foods and you're, going to a sauna and maybe using some castor oil and, doing some things like that that are really
Mm-hmm.
safe and non-invasive? That's okay. But when we get into the harder core detoxes, that's when you want to work with somebody. And really, it's about opening up the detox pathways at first. Are your bowels moving? You have to be pooping
Right.
at least once a day, if not more. 2 to 3 times is gold standard, but at
Yeah.
least once a day. If you're not pooping, do not do a detox at all. You have to be pooping, because if you try to immobilize toxins from your system and your cells and your organs, and you're not pooping, they're just going to build up in your bloodstream and cause inflammation and make you really, really sick. So
Right.
pooping is the first thing. Get your bowels moving. So some ways to do that: make sure you're drinking enough water. I see so many people that are underhydrated and just not drinking enough water. So get adequate hydration. 2/3 your body weight is what I recommend in ounces per day minimum. If it's hot,
Right.
if you're exercising, if you're overexerting yourself, sitting in the sauna, you want more than that. And then we want to make sure that our liver and our kidneys and our detox organs are functioning appropriately. So doing things like cruciferous vegetables are really good for helping, especially detoxing estrogen and other hormones. Adding in enough fiber, getting a bunch of different varieties of fiber from soluble to insoluble, really doing targeted nutrients, doing things like parsley and cilantro. Those are great chelators of metals. So doing things like that. You can also add in supplements. I love Cellcore. They have a great line of humic and fulvic acid, which is great at mobilizing toxins. We want to work in the gut as well. Is your gut optimized? Do you have any opportunistic bacteria? Do you have any parasites or fungus that we need to kill along with removing toxins? And then just making sure you're doing those lifestyle pieces. You're
Mm-hmm.
moving your body every day. You're doing the sauna. We already talked about that. You're sweating. So if you're not doing a sauna, you're doing things to make yourself sweat. If you're not sweating, even adding in things like dry brushing, lymphatic massage, castor oil again is really good. So making sure that you're sweating on a regular basis to get those toxins out. But
Right.
those are some things that you can do at home. But then, as I said, if it's anything more intense than that, definitely working with somebody.
Right. The other one I see a lot of people doing is not just like their food, but a lot of people, when you said the dehydration part at the beginning, is that a lot of people survive on like pots of coffee during the day. And I see that like quite often, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But the problem is it's dehydrating your body
Mhm.
too. So every time you drink coffee, you need to drink that in water as well. So this is where I see a lot of people like, well, I need to go to the bathroom based on like my caffeine intake, but then it kind of like switches as well, like where it starts to dehydrate you. And the other
Mhm.
one is alcohol. And then
Yeah.
that's sort of disrupting the liver as well. So what can you sort of say on the
Mhm.
coffee and the alcohol aspect for people?
Yes, definitely both dehydrating. So coffee is one where I think, the research is mixed it is dehydrating, but I know people love their coffee. And if you have a clean cup where you're getting, a high quality coffee,
Hmm.
organic, maybe even one with some functional mushrooms or some superfoods in it, you're not putting a lot of sugar and sweetener in it. I'm okay if you have one cup in the morning, if it's like that.
Yeah.
Drinking coffee all day, you definitely should not be
Yeah.
doing that. The recommended allowance is like 200 milligrams per day. That's one medium cup of coffee. So,
Right.
and add on top of that, if you're doing energy drinks or you're eating chocolate or, you're doing all these other caffeinated beverages and foods, I think you need to not do that and kind of minimize that as much you can. And
Yeah.
definitely every cup of coffee you have, you need to have at least 8 ounces of water to counteract those dehydrating effects. And
Hmm.
there's a really easy way you can determine if you're dehydrated just by looking at your urine. So if you're at a pale yellow, that's where you want it to be. If it's darker than that, then you're dehydrated, you need water. If it's lighter than that, I'll have clients and patients that say, have clear urine. Well, that means your electrolytes are low. And so we need to re-supplement you with electrolytes. So adding in some of those minerals like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. So
Right.
that's a big one. And then alcohol, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but alcohol is highly toxic. It
Yeah.
takes, I forget the statistic, but I think it's like 10 hours to detox one glass of alcohol, and
Yikes.
like 4 to 8 ounces, depending on what type of alcohol it
That's
is.
not a
It
lot.
stays in your system. Yeah. And it affects your brain health. So alcohol can cross the blood brain barrier. It affects your brain health for up to like 10 days. So I always tell my patients, like, if you want to be less smart for 10 days, then have some alcohol. But I know
Yeah.
me, I don't want that. So,
Yeah.
but again, 80-20 rule. If you're like, it's my birthday and I want a glass of champagne, have one glass, don't have the whole bottle, and choose organic if possible.
Yeah. I think most people, it's just they don't feel as good after they've drank it most of
Yeah.
the time, where they're like, oh, I don't feel like you don't want to go do like a test or anything like a few days after that because you're not
Mhm.
feeling yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So again, the body will always try and, get rid of alcohol first. And
Yeah.
then most people, what happens is they usually, when they've had a lot to drink, they eat more,
Yes.
so it's kind of this like revolving cycle, unfortunately. But it is another way to sort of eliminate, and also kind of, um, you know, put some stuff in there in terms of like adding a little more vitamin C as well to kind of push those toxins through, and
Mhm.
really help the system as well, and less of a hangover for a lot of people because it's depleting as well
Mhm.
for the nutrients in your body. So, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about on the subject that
Yeah.
we've talked about, Dr. Kayla?
Yeah, just a few more things. So as we were
Hmm.
talking earlier, I like to think about what can I add instead? So if you
Hmm.
say I'm not going to do alcohol anymore, was there any fun drinks that are non-alcoholic, or maybe like make yourself a non-alcoholic spritzer, or
Yeah.
put some carbonated water with lime? Like what can you put in place? Because a lot of times it's not just the alcohol that you want, it's that habit. You feel like it's
Yeah.
relaxing. You want to sit and have a drink with your friends or your husband. So what can we replace it instead?
Yeah.
And the same goes for food. I don't like to say I can't have this. I like to say, well, how can I add more good, delicious, nutritious foods versus
Hmm.
I can't have this? And if you're eating a lot of those types of foods, you're not going to have room for the foods that are going to cause, inflammation and wreak havoc in your body. So always think of that abundance mindset versus I
Yeah.
can't.
I love that because that's what we're all about here as well, nutritious and delicious, because that is basically
Mm,
the title, is that it has
yeah.
to be nutritious, but also it has to be delicious. But we make a lot of things at our house where pizzas, pastas, like, and it's gluten
Mhm.
free, dairy free, and we
Yep.
make sure we use like whole grain and like whole ingredients or whole grain
Yeah.
foods or anything like that. And it's we're making healthier versions of these things and
Mhm.
mocktails and things, and fun and eventful, and we never say no to having a fun night with those types of like movie snacks or
Yeah.
things like that. So there's always a way to make it, and it doesn't have to be hard or expensive, to do either. So I like that you are about that too, about adding more fun things in. So yeah, I love that. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in then, Dr. Kayla?
Yeah, I just want to tell people listening, I know we've covered a lot here and some people are listening and they might be feeling overwhelmed, but just remember what I said earlier. Just start somewhere. You don't have to do
Yeah.
all this right now, tomorrow. Just pick one place and start and then slowly build from there and think, how can I do one thing better today than I did yesterday? And you'll start to stack these habits. And before you know it, you'll have a whole new lifestyle. So you can do it. Just do not give up. I have
I
faith in
love
you.
that. I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you. It's a great way to sort of end the show. So thank you for joining us today. And where can our listeners find you?
Sure. So the best place is my website, and that is at hormonepuzzlesociety.com. And there we have a free fertility meal plan. We have my podcast, which is the Hormone Puzzle Podcast, and many different free resources for fertility, hormones, and holistic health. I also have a summit coming up. It's our fifth annual Solving Infertility Summit at the end of January. We go live January 26th, so they can find more information on that at solving-infertility.com. I have a book coming out in the
Yeah.
spring, and so look for that if you're on our website and get on our email list. We'll notify you when that releases, all about fertility and holistic health. And then I'm on social media. Favorite place is Instagram, Kela_health coach. Kela's Kela. It's Kela_health coach. And TikTok is at Dr. Kela Smith.
Wonderful. So I'm going to put all that in the show notes for everybody as well. And I have one last question for you
Sure.
personally. So what's one bucket list thing that you've always wanted to do or that you've already done?
Mm. Oh my goodness. Can I pick two things? One I've done,
Yes.
one I haven't?
Okay, go ahead.
So the one thing that I have done is written a book. That was on my bucket list, and now I'm
Wow.
on my sixth book. So that's a completed. Check that off the list.
Love it.
And then one thing that I haven't done is visit Europe. I've never been to Europe, so that's on the bucket list. I want to go tour Europe and have some good, healthy grains and gluten-free pasta.
You'll
So
love it there. The food is
yes,
absolutely amazing. And that's,
yeah,
I think we've talked about doing like a food tour in
yeah.
Europe just for that alone. So
I
you'll
love it.
get some nice bread there that has none of that pesticide on it that we talked about. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for you and I hope that you get
Thank you.
to do that as well. So thank you so much for joining us on the show and stay tuned for our next episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe.